Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We saw the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's return as he addressed a huge crowd today. We also saw heartwarming images. We saw Maryam Nawaz as she saw her father's helicopter descend, her emotional reaction to his return, the emotional reaction of the people as they saw their leader return after 4 years. As far as the political ramifications of Nawaz Sharif, the former Prime Minister's return, we'll be talking about that. He spoke also about the sufferings of his family while he was unjustly the legal process was used against him, as he mentioned. He spoke about the way that his family was targeted. He spoke about the death of his wife and the fact that he was not allowed to pay his last respects to his family. He spoke about, of course, the rate of the dollar. He spoke about the many achievements as far as the PMLN was concerned, particularly as far as the roads, infrastructure. He talked about the bills, particularly electricity tariff, things of particular and concern to the people. He talked about the people's concerns. He talked about overall as far as Pakistan and what is the way forward for Pakistan. He particularly also spoke about tolerance. He spoke about a style of politics that, according to him, has been missing for the last few years. He said that he doesn't want to go down that road. He wants there to be a categorical difference in his style of politics from that of the PTI, and the way that the kind of vulgar language was used, the kind of venom that was spewed against at that time political opponents. He categorically made a statement and a stance to move away from that. We'll be talking about a lot of what the former Prime Minister Mia Nawaz Sharif said and the ramifications of his return on a charged PMLN, the leadership also overall. We saw a leadership that at this time seems to be charged, seems to be filled with hope as far as the PMLN is concerned, as far as the future of the political party in the upcoming elections are concerned. I don't think it would be wrong to say, and I will be asking my guests this seems to have instilled that new ray of hope and warmth within the PMLN that was awaited for a long time. And we also, of course, again saw Maryam Nawaz and the way that the leadership as a whole of PMLN seems to have reacted from the former Prime Minister's arrival today. I have with me Saif Jamshed Baryar, who is a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We have with us Dr. Abid, who is also a senior analyst. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we have with us Aniq Zafar, who is a senior analyst. Thank you so much for being with us. Geez. We also have with us Dr. Niaz Murtaza. Thank you so much for joining us. Niaz Sab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Gee. I'm going to start with Saif Sab here. Saif, do you as a whole see this as a, like I said, one has to go there because it seems to be a charged crowd. It also seems to be a crowd where the leadership, with their faces beaming of hope, one has to say, there is this electrifying kind of atmosphere today as the former Prime Minister returns. Would you agree with that?
Thank you for having me here. I'll keep it very short and crisp, Mahrukh. Today there were two things that I was really trying to assess before this Jalsa and after this Jalsa has happened now. We can certainly say that there were two sorts of things that we were looking at. One was the politics of populism and maybe the politics of polarity or polarization, and the other was politics of a new hope or politics of optimism. So I clearly believe that in today's Jalsa we have seen a lot of optimism, and we've seen maybe PMLN trying to lift off the burdens of the past and trying to let go of the old wounds. Maybe they have not healed still, as per Mia Saab what he said. But I think it's a collective way forward for a more democratically inclusive future for all of us. So keeping it very short and very clear here, I've seen a change in Nawaz Sharif today, and I see that maybe the contention of 2007 is not being continued, and 2017 to 2023 being 6 years. I think 6 years have given in a lot of political correction to Nawaz Sharif.
Fair enough. Ji, Abid Sahab, how do you look at it? You think that, that tolerance that Saif is talking about, there is political, inclusiveness, so to speak, which is what Mia Saab spoke about. And it seems to be a kind of revitalized, a more pragmatic PMLN. Would you agree?
Thank you very much, Mahrukh. Yes, I think it is the need of the day. If the leadership, whatever is on the ground, does not show that much tolerance and inclusiveness and taking together all the polarization which we have seen for the last 6 years or 7 years in this country, that has ruined everything. Our economy is on deathbed. Literally, that has been thrashed totally. And similarly, the political fabric of the country, that is not, safe even. And Nawaz Sharif, as you said, that the PMLN is very much charged and they are having very much hopes in him, because he is actually the leader of PMLN. The PMLN voters and supporters is directly associated with the persona of Mia Nawaz Sharif. But again, there is a burden of 16 months government that was in incumbent government previously, that is also there, because we have seen a massive decline in the prices, the hike in prices and decline in the dollar rate and many other problems Pakistan.
Those it seems to be are the things that Mia Saab wanted to head on and talk about them. He said, I brought the electricity bill with me and I want to compare the prices of where I left things.
Of course, when he left Pakistan, Pakistan was much better as we have today. But there are so many other things. Politically speaking, now the Nawaz Sharif, because in 2007 when Nawaz Sharif came back, and these baggages are also with him, that he has made 2 deals with the powerful arena of this country. He left country before while having a deal with the former dictator General Pervez Musharraf, but when he came back to Pakistan, he was not that much favorable or favorite at that time, but he was forced to go back to Jeddah. But now the situation is visibly in his favor, that every institution of the state actually welcomed him. He was he is convicting either that those decisions were politically maneuvered or by the maneuvered by the powerful arena to bring the PTI chairman into power, and the judiciary was in favor of the former prime minister, the chairman PTI. And the courts were giving very much favor to him, even in some cases where the accused must have been produced before the court, but they have given that leverage to him. But now we have seen that Nawaz Sharif is convicted. And the way he was convicted, in similar fashion, unfortunately, he was evacuated in those cases. 10 years, sentence in Evanfield reference, that is there. 7 years in Azizia reference case, that is there. But even the biometric, that is, according to some of the constitutionalists, that is very much essential, very much, mandatory. That was even arranged in the plan in which he was sitting. Similarly, the institutions which were responsible to satisfy the courts about the legal situation of the cases of Mia Nawaz Sharif, they were present in the courts without having any notice served to them. So these kind of things are, some sort of eyebrows are being raised by the people, that either it is in result of some deal, or these deals, if there are the accused deals, or these sort of deals which are being discussed by the people.
I want to talk.
Those deals are making the political leaders incredible in the eyes of the common people. I think there should be equal and the level playing field for all the political leaders, so that Pakistan could be
Aniq Zafar, one of the things that Dr. Abid is talking about, he said that there was the talk of tolerance in politics at this time, stepping away from the kind of polarization that we've seen. I want to talk about that particularly. That's also a small part, but it's an important part of Mia Nawaz Sharif's speech, when he says that I want to step away from that. I want there to be a politics. He said, I don't want to name anyone. He said that, I don't want to go down that road where abuse was hurled. And, abuse became a part of the political discourse for a while. Particularly, there are vulnerable elements, and women are particularly one of them. This is a very important part of it. And when you feel that a leader of the former Prime Minister's magnitude comes back and talks to so many people and reassures them that this is not going to be our policy, is it not going to set the right tone for the future in politics?
I really hope so, Mahrukh, that the speech today and next few months set a tone where this nation is set on a course of healing. The process of divisive politics takes a pause, and we all work towards a democratic, progressive, forward-looking Pakistan. Mian Nawaz Sharif Sahib today, former Prime Minister, tried to address these issues. He did say very categorically that he did not want to go on the path of revenge. He prayed to God Almighty that that never should a thought of revenge come in his heart. This is very, very positive. I was hoping that he takes up that issue and addresses the people. It is very difficult since the last few years. Our politics has become a very vicious and acerbic in its tone.
And that itself, the politics also, Aniq Sahib, that politics has now, you know, unfortunately tilted into, it has now gone into our normal everyday discourse, where you don't feel safe enough to voice your political affiliation.
It has now gone beyond politics. I think our level of tolerance on any issue is very, very thin. Mia Sahib has, I was listening to one part of his speech where he even said that all political parties, all institutions have to work towards betterment of Pakistan, and they should join hands with him, and all should get together. That is also a very positive message. And then in the same part of his speech, he also talked about constitutional governance. For me, that is a very, very hopeful and positive aspect of his speech. And I really hope that after today's speech, in the next 3-4 months in the election campaign, he continues with his positive message. Obviously, he has all the right to
criticize the
policies. Everything should be stressed.
I want to come to that.
And we hope that after today's speech, Pakistan finally moves towards
into a new direction.
And towards elections.
Fair enough. Let me go to Dr. Niaz. Niaz, you know, when we say that a new direction or elections, and when we say that we look at the overall speech, you know, do you agree that there seems to have been, seems to have been about policy? You know, he talked about his own achievements. He talked about the fact that, look, he talked about building Pakistan. He talked about the dollar. He talked about the electricity tariff. He talked about what they did. He talked about how his family suffered. Yes, but it seemed to have been about policy. It seemed to have been about, you know, criticizing policies of the earlier government and then talking about what PMLN as a whole can do for the country. Am I correct in saying this? Rather than any kind of personal attacks, any kind of, you know, personal comments, any kind of, you know, vindictiveness coming across from where he was speaking?
No, certainly. I mean, I did not see that kind of vindictiveness or talk about revenge. I think it's really welcome that he's back in Pakistan and is now looks geared to, you know, taking part in politics. I think it was extremely wrong back in 2017-18 to, you know, shut him out of politics on false pretext. And it's good that now he's coming back, but then the same logic should also apply to other politicians like Imran Khan. Even he should not be, you know, kept out on the same kind of false pretext. Now, there were 3 or 4 things that I was looking at. First of all, whether a PMLN would be able to, you know, generate sufficient crowd, a charge crowd. On that thing, I think they were particularly successful. It was a large crowd. It was a you know, charged crowd, fully involved. Then the next thing was, you know, what kind of narrative he would have, what you were asking about. And there were concerns even within, PMLN, say the Shehbaz Sharif wing of it, whether, he would talk about, accountability, revenge, or would he focus more on, rebuilding and rescuing Pakistan? So it's clear from what he said, he said he's not going to talk about revenge. He did not name any sensitive figures. It was all about, we have to rescue Pakistan, and that's good. But then whether he has, a strong agenda for that or not, that is the basic issue. He sort of, defended Shehbaz Sharif and said that even though the situation today is very bad, it's not because of Shehbaz Sharif, but, the previous government before that, presumably PTI, although he didn't name them. And then, he also went along and, praised his own last tenure from 2013 to 2018. And all the policies that they followed, and that's where I have a problem. What Pakistan needs today is a very different kind of governance agenda from what PMLN implemented from 2013 to 2018, which finally led to the 2018 crisis. And there I did not hear too much from him. We desperately, Pakistan is in such a bad economic condition that it's good that we don't talk about accountability and focus on the economy. But then you need new ideas and a new governance model and a new governance structure. It's not going to be delivered by the same model that PMLN used from 2013 to 18.
In this speech where he's talking to the crowd for the first time after 4 years, he talked about a couple of things. He talked about reducing expenses. He talked about IT power, giving a lot of power importance to the IT sector. He talked about reducing exports, and women and youth, and how they were also going to be really important to the PMLN and the agenda. So the broad-based agenda is there, but of course, the nitty-gritty of governance at this time from this speech was not there. But to be fair, at a gathering like this, where he's interacting with his people, with his followers, after 4 years, would we have expected a kind of manifesto, or perhaps it's too early to expect that, and more about a general broad-based idea of what the PMLN will stand for in the elections, right?
Definitely, it's not the end, it's just the beginning. I'm just saying we did not hear about it today. Hopefully we will hear about it in the coming days. He has to give a very clear idea that there will be a break from the past, not just of the PTI policies, but even PMLN's own policy. A new kind of focus on merit, on young people, new ideas, and his own role. He's critical for PMLN, but what's his role going to be for Pakistan? If he's going to be a hands-on prime minister, then I see problems. If he's going to be leader of PMLN and at most a president who provides overall guidance and focuses on foreign policy, then I think he has an important role. But if he's going to be prime minister again and there is a talk, then I don't think he's the right person to implement a new, fresh kind of governance agenda.
I think that's perhaps Saif, it's perhaps too early for there to be. I mean, there are of course legal hurdles at this time that the former Prime Minister has to address. There are issues that there, and I think that the PMLN is fully cognizant of that, and it's perhaps too early to know who's going to be where in the placement in the larger picture of the PMLN. But I think overall a broad-based agenda of where things are headed for the PMLN was there, isn't that right?
Mahrukh, I'd agree with the fact that maybe where things are headed for PMLN, that's a little clear, but where things are headed for the general public, that's another thing as well. One thing that was fundamentally missing from Mia Saab's speech today was something that I constantly searched for, and it was the assertion of an election date. Because ultimately the political optimism that the average voter, apart from the PMLN crowd that got pulled, they're also looking for the certainty of political optimization, rather I'd call, and political optimization in any electoral process happens once an election date is announced. So I do think that what People's Party is asserting at the moment, that if Mia Saab is finally back with a new agenda, with not the wounds of the past overshadowing the politics of today, I think Mia Saab should have at least asserted on a new elections date.
But Abid Saab, is it up to Mia Saab to give a date at all. I mean, this is about the Election Commission, this is about the courts, this is about a case that is already in court, and as I understand, a bench has already been fixed on the 90-day requirement of the elections. So I mean, was it up to Mia Saab to come back and say that, look, I want elections in 90 days? I mean, we have to be, we have to know what and how, what is a deliverable for the PMLN, what is the purview, what is the ambit of his own. For him it is about leading the party, it is about coming and taking reins of the party. There have been issues within the PMLN also to make sure that he deals with them, and there to be that one collective PMLN that will then walk into the elections to get the maximum, right?
True, it's true, but Saif is also having weight in his notion that Mia Saab is one of the few, rather I would say the most senior leader of the country at this juncture of history. He should have talked about the date of elections and the demand of the elections, whatever he could do. I agree with Saif to this extent. But there are so many, there are many sort of stages to come for Mia Saab, because he has to appear before the courts. He has to convince the nation that he was given a date of four weeks to leave country for his treatment, but he remained 4 years out of the country. These sort of questions are also there, and the 16 months governments, that is also there. Or similarly, his opponents, either the PTI chief is going to contest elections, he is allowed by the constitutional institutions of the state, or the PTI, where it would stand. There are so many challenges are in his way, but that's why I think he refrained himself from talking so much loudly about the elections or the demand of the elections, because he wants to see the situation that how things are heading towards what would be the role of the courts. Today we have seen very much favorable role, because even the biometric that was also carried out within the plan. But perhaps the what would be the mood of the court, how would they follow all those cases, and the political situation either in his favor or not. That's why he has deliberately perhaps refrained himself from the date of the election.
Fair enough. And Aniq Sir, and also the fact that how the court is going to look at the disqualification, what's going to happen. There are a lot of legal challenges, or at least legal issues that have to be dealt with for the former Prime Minister.
Definitely there are legal issues which over the course of next few months he has to handle. He has to go to the courts and seek whatever relief is required before he contests elections. There is also a contentious matter of whether his disqualification from the Supreme Court stands for a lifetime. There are two opinions about it. So that again will be contested at some legal forum. So those are there. But for
even the
Pakistan,
convictions in some cases.
Convictions are obviously that is an entirely different thing, because normal convictions only attract 5-year disqualification that he may have completed by now. But the disqualification imposed by the Supreme Court was lifetime, and that is a contentious issue right now, whether the amendment in the electoral laws
and what role he chooses to take within the PMLN, all of those things are also.
For PMLN and for himself, the most important thing, as you mentioned out, Mahrukh, is that finally he's back. He's ready to lead the party in the elections. He is the only force for the PMLN voters and supporters. And uniting the PMLN leadership also. Galvanize the support base and create a momentum and wave for the party, and that is required. As for other factors, his opposition parties, they will have to sort of bear their own burdens, whether they can get relief from the courts, whether they can put up good candidates.
And at the end of the day, what the courts can do for other political parties or their leaders is really not up to. That's not up to me and Nawaz Sharif Saab.
So that is entirely
and the level and the
go into that at a different.
And the level playing field.
Today it is the PMLN
about addressing
and Mia Saab's day. So let's focus on that.
And I want to go. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time, but I'm going to quickly go to Nia Saab ji. Nia Saab, whether what happens to other leaders, whether there is a level playing field or not, Mia Saab is not going to give them that level playing field, right? I mean, to be fair, he's only going to ask for his own space within the political realm, and he's going to talk to his people, he's going to talk to his voters and ask them and plead with them for, you know, their votes based on, he says, on his past performance, what he can do in the future, what the PMLN can bring to the table, and perhaps, like you said, you know, in the future when he speaks to his people, perhaps more clearly about the style of governance that the PMLN will choose to have if they come into government.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, the big challenge, how to win over, the masses who are reeling under, the pressures of huge inflation, unemployment, and, unfortunately for him, they are putting much of that blame to this, fairly disastrous 16 months that PMLN had in power. And it's true, it wasn't started under PMLN, it started under PTI, but try explaining that to, the angry population. So that's where he has to, pull something out of his hat, something very new. Just talking about the past and, grand highways and power plants may not be enough. He has to, come up with a new vision, a new economic vision. Where does Pakistan fit into the global economy? How can we, climb up the ladders? And it's not going to be done by, just getting CPAC or even SIFC. What we need is, a new economic vision which focuses on...
Parties have to offer, and whether they also have a kind of roadmap for the average voter. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for joining us, Saif Jamshed Bariyar Saab. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Abid Abbasi. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us, Aniq Zafar Saab. Thank you for joining us. And Nawaz Murtaza Saab, thank you so much for being with us. Overall, of course, we saw the former Prime Minister speak to his people. And there was, the crowd was very charged. There was a massive crowd, one has to contend. There was also, there seemed to be a lot of, warmth as far as the crowd was concerned. Of course, Mia Saab gave a broad-based agenda. He talked about tolerance, he talked about no vengeance, he talked about moving forward for Pakistan. And he also talked about the fact that when he came today, of course, this was a different Pakistan. It was a welcoming Pakistan, but not too long ago, he also came back with his daughter and, walked down the plane. I think those images are also important when Pakistan was not so welcoming for him. And this is the same leader, this is the same Nawaz Sharif who people wanted to see, and there was a huge crowd. He was welcomed very warmly, and I think that perhaps it may be a new chapter, and we hope that it's a new chapter for the politics of tolerance in this country, where one doesn't feel that one can't express their own political affiliations without getting, the kind of abuse that was not very long ago hurled at one. Thank you so much for joining us today on First.